of Adar, birthday and Hilula of Moshe Rabbeinu, corresponding to the third day of March 2020, Lighthouse Torah project dedicated לעילוי נשמת דבורה פייגה בת שמואל, אורה דבורה בת שמואל, אסתר רבקה בת אברהם, מוניקה מרים בת פניה, מנחם מנדל בן אלחנן. The iTorah.com sponsorship. שידוכים of נחמדינה בת חנה בת אלוהים בן אסתר יורף בן פרחה, רחל פנינה בת ג'ני, and Sarah Simcha בת סופי. By the Edmond J. Safra Synagogue, special breakfast and class, graciously sponsored by the Misri family, לעילוי נשמת their beloved mother, Victoria בת זריפה, עליה השלום. יהי רצון that through the words of Torah and Berachot will be an עילוי נשמה. Amen. Just being today the Hilula of Moshe Rabbeinu, I believe that this will be most of us of today. Time allowing, I will add a couple of things. But let's talk about Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. The Pasuk writes in Perashah Mishpatim, Et mispar yamecha amale. I will complete the days of your life. The Gemara tells us in Masechet Kiddushin, Akadosh Baruch Hu memale shenotehem shel tzaddikim. God gives the righteous a complete life cycle. What is it considered a complete life cycle from Torah perspective? 120 years, same birthday and same day of passing. It doesn't mean, just for the record, that tzaddikim who did not live 120 or tzaddikim who have a different birthday and a different day of passing, that they are lesser level of tzaddikim, God forbid. No, but there are certain tzaddikim that they have this added benefit. Moshe Rabbeinu was one of them. David HaMelech was another one. Yosef HaSaddik was another one. Yaakov Avinu was another one. There were a handful of tzaddikim who had this merit. But with that being said, many people have a custom in the night or day of 7th of Adar, which is today, to fast and to do a special tikkun known as the tikkun of the 7th of Adar. This fasting, it is not mandatory at all. It is optional, and I really don't know many people that fast, but I do know that in the major leagues of Hasidim and Tzaddikim and Mekubalim, that in the day of the Yortzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, they do a personal ta'anit. Why? Short answer, Rashi says, Mitatam shel tzaddikim mechaperet. The passing of a righteous person is an atonement for the entire Jewish people. Like the fast day atones, the passing of the tzaddikim also atones. But we follow the tradition that we don't really do more than the necessary fasting established by our Hachamim, especially when it comes to certain dates in the calendar, like next Monday will be Ta'anit Esther, which is right before the magnificent day of Purim, which is literally a week from today. Now, what we should think about in a day like today? Obviously, the minute that we say Moshe Rabbeinu, what is the first thing that comes to our mind? Torah learning. We agree on that. It's a pasuk. Torah sivalanu Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu commanded us, as I said yesterday. The Zohar Kadosh calls Moshe Rabbeinu Ra'aya Mehemna. Our holy rabbis tell us the faithful shepherd. That's the meaning of that word. Like a shepherd takes care of the sheep, Moshe Rabbeinu took care of Am Israel during his 40 years of leadership. And more than once, Moshe Rabbeinu came to the rescue and saved Am Israel, negotiated with God the truth, negotiated with God different ways of continuing the existence of Am Israel. So definitely the Torah, for example, if you look in the beginning of Sefer Shemot, the Torah talks about Moshe Rabbeinu, and what the pasuk says, Bayar besivlotam. Literally, one of the beautiful midot that the Torah describes about Moshe, it was going out of the comfort that he lived at. Moshe, as we know, raised by Paro, up to the age of 40, he lived in the palace of Paro. So Moshe Rabbeinu had whatever a human being can desire. It's like you live in the White House. Do you need to worry about cooking? Do you need to worry about cleaning? Do you need to worry about anything? Nothing. Hamavdil ben kodesh lehol. I'm not connecting to historical buildings like the Palace of Paro and the White House in Washington, but I'm only bringing this as an example. It's like you check in a hotel and they tell you you need to do your own bed. Probably, maybe, there are places in the world, like in Europe I know, that many places they share the same bathroom. They have rooms and they share the same bathroom. But I don't think that any of us will check in into such a hotel, correct? We go to a hotel that is clean and has a bathroom, correct? Hamavdil. But the pasuk tells us, Baidal Moshe, Moshe grew, literally, and the growing, Rashi explains that Paro appointed him the general manager of his palace. Yani he has even a better position now. If he owed a token of gratitude to Paro, his stepfather, or his adoptive father rather, and Batia, his adoptive mother, who actually saved Moshe Rabbeinu, now there she says, Sheminahu Paro al Beto. Now Moshe became the general manager of the palace of Paro. Yani he's more involved. And what is the next word? Bayese el Eham Bayar besivlotam. He left the comfort of the palace and associated himself with the hardship of the Jewish people, which is an unbelievable middah. This is an unbelievable middah that a person has. Imagine yourself, your daughter is getting married, or your son is about to become bar mitzvah. And when you want to do a beautiful event, your wife wants you to do a beautiful event. And then what do you say? No, haram. I'm not going to do a beautiful event. I'm going to sponsor a breakfast in the knis, and I'm going to give the difference of the money to a needy bride or to a needy couple. It sounds beautiful. How much a bar mitzvah costs today? 20,000?
That's a loaded question.
30,000?
Any amount you want.
Okay, don't scare me, please, okay? Actually, it costs more because it cost then, a few years back, that amount, if not more.
You ever
Okay.
hear of destination one?
I heard, yeah, we don't like that. We don't like that. Anyways, that's why Sha'arei Sion, I know, Sha'arei Sion in Brooklyn now came out with certain suggestions with fixed pricing of how to do sebbets, how to do bar mitzvahs, berit milah, etc. I know the community in Panama established this several years back when the financial crisis hit them, and also they added this. Maybe other places in the world do exist, this takanot, so to speak, and the idea is that a wedding should not be a mortgage. We understand that? So, but I ask you a question. How many wives or how many sons or daughters will agree with your offer? Make the breakfast in shul as nice as today, or add a couple of more muffins and sambusak, right? And then give the balance to the tzedakah to marry a bride or marry a groom. Most people will not do that. Many people will give charity a lot, but they will still spend X amount of money. You know what Moshe Rabbeinu did? Vayese. Moshe Rabbeinu left the luxury lifestyle that he had and went out, rolled up the sleeves, and started to help the Jewish people. The first day that he went out, let's read the pasuk. Wait. Let's read the pasuk together. Okay? Bayar ish misri, make ish ivri me'ahav. The first day. Yani imagine yourself. How can I bring you a good example? Let's say that you are a traffic police officer, right? You're a traffic police officer. You are conducting traffic. You make sure that people drive good. And the first day, you save the day. You see, God forbid, somebody about to commit a crime, and you stab the fellow. Which is basically what happened in this pasuk. The first day that Moshe says, let me go out and see how my brothers and sisters are doing, and that's what the pasuk tells you, the purpose of going out. Bayar besivlotam. Rashi says, Natan einav belibo. He wanted to see and wanted to feel the suffering of his brothers. I'll tell you a story. Short one. I don't like very long stories. I like short, straight to the point, and without drama. Okay? I'll tell you quickly. One day, maybe I'll tell you two stories. Powerful. Okay? One day, there was an orphan who was getting married, and regretfully, the family didn't have much to provide for the wedding, and they went to the rabbi of the shul. Rabbi, maybe you can approach certain people to help us for the wedding. The rabbi said, I know one member who loves to do misvot, unannounced, and usually wants me to talk to him first before I go around to 10 people. Beautiful people, Baruch Hashem. This story happened in Europe in the middle of the winter. And the poverty was so much in this family that they couldn't afford even to have wood for the fire to bring them warmth to the home. You have to understand, the Russian or European cold winters are not Miami winter. Yani 54 degrees or 55 or 45. We're talking about, below, right? Minus. Okay, can you imagine? And you have no heat in your home? So what did the rabbi do? He went to the house of this Gvir. Gvir means a wealthy fellow. And the rabbi stands by the door. Yes, this is the rabbi. Hacham, Faddal, please come inside. Let me make you a tea. Let me give you some vodka. That's what they drink in Russia, right? Right?
Keeps them warm.
Right, 100%. So the Hacham says, there is no need. Come out. The guy comes out with a shahada, with a rope, and you see the fellow is shaking, is shivering, is freezing cold. And he says, listen, there is a needy bride that is getting married, and the family really doesn't have much to provide for the wedding. So we want to make sure that this young girl gets married in a dignified manner. Additionally, the family cannot afford wood for the fire. So maybe when you do the check, try to give me something more for this family overall. And the fellow says to the rabbi, okay, rabbi, okay, let me write the check for you. So the fellow, after he writes a very generous check to the rabbi, the fellow asks the rabbi, Rabbi, I don't understand you. You couldn't tell me this inside of the home over a cup of coffee? The rabbi says, I wanted you to feel what does it mean not to have heat at home. It's not the same thing. La dame tahaze letashema, the Gemara says. In English they say, seeing is believing. You hear, oh, this family has issues of parnasa. There is limited income coming to the home, which is usually happen with most of the people that we collect for almost daily. And and sometimes the stories are so painful that, and there is no end. But imagine yourself in the shul, we get by giving $1 or $2 in the box. But imagine if you will go to that particular home and you see the living conditions. When they tell you living conditions are difficult, what does it really mean living conditions are very difficult? For us, maybe, the AC is not working, hazak. You understand? And for them, every time it rains, it leaks into the apartment. Haz v'shalom. This was the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe Rabbeinu did not ignore the pain and suffering of others. This was story number one. There was another story, which I don't remember that story now. I got carried away with the first story. Hopefully we'll come back. But the message was exactly the same. How people feel other people's pain. And that's what the Pasuk writes. The day that Moshe Rabbeinu came out, he saved the day. He saw an Egyptian attempting to kill a Jew. This was the famous incident of the Egyptian who went with the Jewish lady and he wanted to kill the husband of the lady. And the next day, Moshe Rabbeinu goes out and he sees two people fighting and arguing. And that's when Moshe Rabbeinu had to leave to Yitro, to the area of Yitro. And then Moshe also comes to the rescue. And they arrive, Moshe comes, and Paro became aware, attempting to kill Moshe. Moshe goes to Midian. Midian, Yitro had 7 daughters. They were the one taking care of the water in the well. And then the male shepherds came by Gareshum. Yani, get out of here. Says, out. Why? Because Yitro, at this parasha, was a fugitive. Yitro, remember Yitro? Yitro was one of the advisors of Paro. And Paro had 3 advisors, Bil'am, Eob, and Yitro. And what does he ask them? What, in the beginning of the parasha, what to do with the Jewish people? They are increasing tremendously. They are increasing tremendously. What do? Bil'am says, get rid of them. Yitro says, how dare threatening the Jewish people? Because of Yosef, because of Yaakov, Egypt became the Mecca of the world. You became the real estate landowner or landlord. The biggest real estate of the world was managed by Paro. He owned all of Egypt legally. And on top of that, you're going to kill the Jewish people? So what did Yitro do? Run away. Where did he settle? In Midian. So the shepherds of Midian, anytime they will see the daughters of Yitro attempting to get water from the well, they will remind them, your father is a fugitive. You can only come afterwards when no one is around. And the Pasuk tells us, by Yaakov Moshe, Moshe happens to be there, by Yoshiam, and he got rid of the shepherds, yani he removed them, by Yashk et Sonam, and Moshe Rabbeinu, on top of that, not only saved these 7 girls, he fed the sheep. בתבון הרועה לביהם, they came to Yitro back. ויאמר, and he said, מדוע מיהרתם בו היום? How come that it's only 10:30 in the morning and you are talking, yani, like there is nothing else to do? Did you feed the sheep? They said, yes. איש מצרי הסילנו מיד הרועים. An Egyptian man saved us from the hands of the shepherd. וגם דלו דלה לנו. And he also brought the water from the well. ויש את הסון. And on top of that, he is the full package. He is the full package. He got rid of the headache. He got the water. And he fed the animals. והיו, now comes Yitro. And it says, hold on. This guy sounds like a good catch. I have 7 daughters to marry. Okay, where is he? למה עזבתם את האיש? Why did you let him go? קראנה לו ביאכל לחם. Call him, invite him. The least you can do is invite him to have a meal. Rashi says, lechem in Torah, it's a clean word to speak about marriage. Yes, we find that in Sefer Bereshit at the end, when the Torah talks about Yosef in the palace of Potiphar. The Pasuk says, Yosef was in charge of everything, ki malechem asher hu ochel, with exception of the bedroom of Potiphar and his wife. This was off limits. And that's what Rashi mentions in this Pasuk. Yitro says, maybe one of you will marry Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Pasuk says, Vaiten et Tzipora bito le Moshe. And Tzipora marries eventually Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu could have avoided all this drama with the shepherds. Moshe Rabbeinu did nothing better to do to serve water to sheep, to strangers. But this was the great midah that Moshe Rabbeinu had. Bayar besiblotam. He saw somebody suffering. What can I do to help? Many times when we see people suffering, what do we say? I'm so sorry for you. Haram, hazid. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say much. Moshe Rabbeinu acted. And that's what the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says. Lo midrashi aikar ela hamaaseh. The main thing is the action. You can talk about it all day long, but what are you doing about it? All right? So this is one midah of Moshe Rabbeinu. And through this, and I'm not going to deviate from the marriage of Moshe and Tzipporah, but we know the marriage of Moshe and Tzipporah, eventually they had 2 children, Gereshom and Eliezer. And obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah tells us in Perashah Beha'alotecha, I believe, the great middah that Moshe Rabbeinu had, middat ha'anava, humility. He did not take anything for granted. Everything was the ways of Hashem, the will of Hashem. Not only that, the Gemara brings in Masechet Shabbat, talks about some of the questions that a person must activate in their life, because these questions, the Talmud tells us, will be questions that every one of us, after 120, will be asked. Besides, what is your name? That we discussed that last week, the importance at the end of the Amidah to recite a verse from the Tanakh that begins with the first letter of your name and finishes with the last letter of your name. So let's say your name is David, so your pasuk will be Dirshu Hashem be'uzo, bakeshut panav tamid. So begins with Dalet, finishes Dalet. Shlomo, Shin and He, Shir Hashirim, Asher Lishlomo. Yosef, that's easy, of course. I know, Raphael. Okay? Be'en biyadi matzil. Re'u ata ki ani hu. It's a very long pasuk for the name of Raphael. So, Beautiful. I'm so happy that everybody knows. So that's question number one. That's the pre-question. This is like pre-question. Then comes the other questions. Question number one, the Gemara says, Nasata benatata ve'emuna, honest in business. Were you honest in the world of business or not? That's a very important question. Other explanation says that this question is not limited to business, but this question actually means in the emunah of the person. Did you develop your emunah? And why do we speak about developing the emunah? Because we know one thing. The more the emunah is developed in the life of the person, the easier life becomes to the person. And one of the reasons why to many people life is difficult and challenging is because their emunah is in a basement, or their emunah is on a basic level. But emunah is not a settlement. Emunah needs to become a way of life. And the more emunah we add to our life, the easier life will become. I cannot guarantee you that the problems will disappear. But one thing is for sure. You will not say problems, you will say situations. You will not say problems, you will say challenges. Do you understand the different approach? Instead of being negative, you'll be more positive. Again, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't go to Whole Foods, can you have 500 milligrams of emunah? Time release? No. Yeah, it's time release. Every day, one dosage, one learning, one lesson, another story. Gradually, you will not see the difference from one day to the other. But looking back 6 months ago, and look at yourself today, and you will say, yes, Rabbi, my emunah today is better than 6 months ago. Which is great. It's a given, something that we expect everybody to develop. But the only way you can do that is by talking about emunah and learning Torah. The next question is, Kabata itim la Torah? Did you set times to learn Torah daily? Baruch Hashem, those who come and learn fulfill this mitzvah on a regular basis. We have a date with God every day. And we know that we come to pray, we have a little breakfast, and we learn Torah. That is dating with God. Then we go out to the world. Then in the evening, we come back to pray. We learn a few minutes between Mincha and Arvit, after Mincha and Arvit, or after Arvit, whatever. But we have a constant system of discipline that really connects us with the Kadosh Baruch Hu in a beautiful, beautiful way. The third question, and that's something that we're going to talk about now, is Tzipita leYeshua. The fourth question. Tzipita leYeshua. The third question is, Asakta vepiriya berivia. Asakta vepiriya berivia in English means, did you toil in being fruitful and multiply? Let's clarify this question. This question, it is not, did you have children? Because Shamayim can see if you had children or not. But the question is, if you raise your children to be followers of the Torah, that's a tough one to answer. That requires effort. That's why we say asakta. What's the meaning of asakta? Asakta means laboring. Asakta means toiling. Do you understand the difference? When a person toils in something, what does it mean? You put the extra effort. You work very hard. And the fourth question is, Tzipita leYeshua, did you hope in your time for Mashiach to come? Obviously, in our days, I think that the way the world is going, the only thing that can save us is Mashiach's arrival. if it's the coronavirus that is spending too much time around the world still, and regretfully you hear numbers, Haz v'Shalom, updating on a daily basis. If it's in the north, in the south, even in the United States, there were a couple of casualties. Lo aleno velo alechem. So we need to definitely reactivate our prayers that they found a solution soon, and everybody affected by it should have a refuah shelema. Because if they don't have it, we, God forbid, become exposed to it as well. All right? I don't want to be dramatic, but this is the reality that we need to understand what is going on. Let's hope and pray that this is another stepping stone to Mashiach's arrival. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Shehakol Nihiyah Bidbaro. Now you understand why today is called Super Tuesday? Right? Today is Super Tuesday, right? But it's not because of the election by the Democrats. It's because the Hilulah of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why it's called Super Tuesday. Can we understand? You have to understand. You have to use your cup. You have to use your head a bit. All right? Huh? Okay, let's hope that Netanyahu wins.
I thought he won.
He did not win. As of now, no. The Yeser Hara, you have to understand. You have to understand, and it wasn't my intention to speak about it today in honor of Moshe Rabbeinu, but I think that Moshe Rabbeinu will understand why I'm taking a detour about what's going on in Eretz Israel. What's going on in Eretz Israel is not only about the land of Israel, about the land, the borders of Israel, the relationship with the Middle Eastern countries. What's going on today in Israel is fighting for the survival of Judaism, fighting for the sanctity of Am Israel, fighting for intermarriage is kept to zero. If God forbid the opposition takes over the country, the spiritual challenges for Israel will increase because this is part of their agenda. Rabotai, you need to understand, even though I'm saying this with discomfort, I'm saying this with pain, that this is a concern that we have today, that in Israel, that there are political parties that go openly against the Torah. What do you think it brings to the Jewish people? Disasters. Disasters. The threat of Purim, prior to the miracle, what prompted the threat of Purim? Assimilation. Bowing down to the idols of Nebuchadnezzar, participating in non-kosher feasts and parties of Ahasuerus. So even though we speak about democracy, etc., but we need to understand that even democracy has guidelines. So even when we're going to be in Israel as a free nation, the freedom of Israel is not, God forbid, a freedom of not serving God. Because if we do that, how long more you think we are going to last as a nation? And this is a very serious danger that is at the gates of Israel. If Haz v'Shalom, Netanyahu does not win, we need to be careful. Between the Arabs and the anti-Jewish parties, what do you have? Galut. If till now we are in Galut, then it's going to be more Galut. Shema Israel. But that's why you have this struggle at this time. This war is not a physical vote war. It's a war in Shamayim. The Yeser Hara against Malach Michael. That's what the Zohar explains about the war between Egypt and the Jewish people. I'm not saying, just for the record, that Netanyahu is a Hasid. Okay? He's a politician. But you know, we have a concept in Torah that you got to pick the best of what's available. Obviously, will be a dream for Israel that the prime minister is a Shomer Shabbat individual and wears a kippah and tzitzit and eats kasher 7 days a week. But we're not far from there. Because when Mashiach comes, that's the way it's going to be. And I'm not referring to any politician. For me, forget about all the politicians that are there. Because we understand that politics is dirty, politics is not clean, and politics, it's, not good. But it's politics, hazak. But the reality of life is that the struggle of Israel today, in the next few hours, the scale will be tilted. Hopefully to the right. We're not there yet. 59, first was 60, 59, now it comes the negotiations. Who are you going to sit with? With an anti-Torah party? Anti-Jewish party? I'm not going to say names, but you know exactly what I'm referring to. Or you're going to sit with the Arabs, which it doesn't make sense. But this is what's happening in Israel. There are 15 seats in the Knesset. More than 17. Almost 15% of the Knesset seats are owned by Arabs.
How did they get?
This is the crooked mind of politics. Yeah, now you understand? Between the Jewish, anti-Jewish, and the Arabs, say goodbye to Israel.
Self-hate.
Now you understand the stories of prior to Hanukkah, prior to Purim, the assimilation in the time of Ezra Sofer. Today we see it, thanks to digital media or social media and the internet. You're living it and you're aware of what's going on. It takes 1 minute or less to know what's going on in Israel and see it in America. So we hope and pray that Hashem, in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu, really tilts the scale for the spiritual well-being of Am Israel. And I repeat, don't take this from a political perspective, because it's not the intention. It's all about the spirit of who we are as a nation. Part of the things that they want to do in Israel is to establish no religious ceremonies are required to get married. And abortions are encouraged, and same-gender marriage are acceptable, and other things which, God forbid, can create such a spiritual disaster to the Jewish nation that it, God forbid, can become dangerous at all levels. Because when situations like this happen, the heavenly response is not a quiet one. You understand? The protection of the Jewish people is not only to the borders between Hamas, Hezbollah, Gaza, and Jerusalem. It's the spiritual borders which become the fence of our life. And that's one of the things that a person should pray for. Borei Olam, send the redemption to Am Israel. Why? Because the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu was through prophecy. Remember the incident when Yocheved gave Mehillah, when Paro came out with the decree, all the boys born should be cast into the Nile River. What did Amram do? He got divorced from his wife.
He didn't want to have kids.
Right. So Miriam, which was a 5-year-old child, what does she say to her father? You're worse than Paro. Can you imagine? Your child, 5-year-old, tells you, you're worse than Hitler. Haz v'shalom. Saying worse than Paro and saying worse than Hitler, It's no difference. Zo nevela, zo terefa. Perhaps it shakes us more to say the word Hitler because we saw the damage that he made to the Jewish people. What do you think, Paro did less damage? No. Even more. Even more. And what Amram says, why do you call me Paro? I'm the head of the Sanhedrin. I'm the chief rabbi of Israel. I'm so bad? She says, yes. Paro made a decree on the boys. But if you are divorced, no boys, no girls. What was the reaction of Amram? He remarried his wife. He remarried Yocheved. And it says here quickly, on that moment, it says that Miriam, that was 5 years old, she was given a heavenly inspiration. And she said, my mother will bring the Mashiach for the Jewish people. 5 years old. And when they heard this prophecy from Miriam, they said, we're going to need to do our ishtadlut. If God sends a message through a child, which you need to know this, many, many times, God sends the message to children, especially children that are with autism and other things. It's a known concept that sometimes they get this heavenly message. And what do? They get married and they brought Moshe Rabbeinu. And we all know that Moshe Rabbeinu was kept by his parents 3 months until Moshe Rabbeinu became 3 years old, and then he was put into the water. And we all know the concept of the salvation of Moshe Rabbeinu that came directly and indirectly through the concept of Miriam. Because Miriam was also the one that when Moshe Rabbeinu was attempted to be fed by the Egyptian women, what did Moshe Rabbeinu do? He refused to be fed. And the Pasuk says, "V'tetatzava choto merachok." That refers to Miriam. And she stood from far, lede'a ma ya'aseh lo, to see what's going to be. I was given this prophecy that my newborn brother will be the Mashiach. But how could it be a Mashiach if he's about to die? And the Pasuk tells us, "Batiftach, batahmol, batomer achoto el bat Paro." Miriam says to Batia, "Ha'elech bekarati lach isha mineked min ha'ivriot." It says, should I bring you a Jewish lady? Why? Every lady that was with Batia attempted to nurse Moshe. And Moshe Rabbeinu refused to eat. Why? Atidab shechina ledaber mitoch gerono shel Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was going to convey God's message to the Jewish people. So how Moshe Rabbeinu was able to eat non-kosher food, non-kosher milk? And that's the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu did not nurse until Batia says, Lechi, batelecha alma, batikra et hem hayaled, helichi et hayeled benekiu li, banieten et secharech, batikah haisha hayeled, batenikehu. The daughter of Paro says, take this Jewish child, give it to this lady to be feeding him on a regular basis, and I will pay you the salary. Look, an unbelievable miracle. From the source of destruction, which is the palace of Paro, the salvation comes to Am Israel. And this is something that we need to know. The worse the enemies of the Jewish people treat the Jewish people, the more to the defense God comes to the Jewish nation. You understand? Paro, you question who is this God that you're talking about? You said kill all the Jews. You're going to support the Mashiach. You're going to raise the Mashiach. And Mashiach is going to run your business. This was a slap in the face of Paro. But this happens on a regular basis. the more a person, God forbid, or a nation turns to God, against God, God reacts. What do you think? That Iran is going through this situation in the way they do, in a crazy numbers, is unfounded? Of course, if they curse the Jewish people 3 times a day, and they say death to Israel, etc., what do you think is going to happen? Okay, even in the parliament. Haz v'shalom. No, but it's the reality. We know this. I'm only bringing isolated cases just to understand that there is a sheriff in town. God is seeing what's going on. So we say, Tzipita leYeshua. Don't despair of all the disasters that we see around us. Continue doing whatever we are doing. Obviously, do the medical or the suggested cleaning or healthy habits, right? That they are being told, etc. But Be'ezat Hashem, we hope and pray that this threat goes out. And Be'ezat Hashem, let's hope and pray that we hear great news coming from Israel. Amen. And if great news coming from Israel, Be'ezat Hashem, we're going to be heading to the ultimate purpose of our life in our days, which is the concept of Mashiach's arrival. Amen. Baruch Adonai